Hi there, I'm Kalevi Ekman. I'm professor of product development in Aalto University in Finland. As a university, Aalto is rather a new creature, bringing together universities of technology, business, and architecture and design. And the building behind me is the Aalto Design Factory that from day one has tried to support the new university to become what it wants to be. Why don't we have a look inside? Coffees. The mixture of a coffee and office is the heart of the building that brings the community together and supports interaction and so-called planned coincidences. You don't need much. A self-service kitchen, some random room for ad hoc meetings, coffee machine, the one and only in the building, and the hugging point. The goal of Design Factory is to educate the best product developers in the world. How do we do that? We provide the students 24/7 access to this building of over 3,000 square meters. We have plenty of meeting rooms. Aalto, as a university, brings together technology, business, and design. But it doesn't happen like that. If we don't have any means how to promote the interaction and force the students from various disciplines to meet each other and work together. This is the experimental platform for that development. If you are a bit suspicious about the ideas of Design Factory, you are most probably right. On the other hand, there are many other universities and institutes all over the globe. In New York, in Philadelphia, in Kyoto, Seoul, in Sao Paulo, in Geneva, Switzerland, etc. 30 design factories or such like have already joined the Design Factory Global Network. We are now in the machine shop. That is one of the workshops in this building. It's equipped with some machinery, and we also have experts who are here to help the students in their problems and taking their ideas further. It's so important to take the ideas until the realization phase to meet all the possible mistakes that have been made. So it's really valuable from the learning perspective. As a professor, I'm in charge for the course Product Development Project, PDP. That is a year-long interdisciplinary learning project in partnership with industries. All the project assignments, they are real, they are challenging, and they are ill-defined at the beginning. So the students have to explore, interact with the users, and define their project and work out their project plan at the early stage. Unfortunately, we can't give any guarantee for the companies. Our business model is a bit different. The only promise that I can give for 100% sure is that we will take the money and let's see what comes out. But when we have strongly motivated and talented students, when we can provide the proper support for them, the results often surprise everyone and go far beyond all the expectations. Usually we complete roughly 30 projects a year here at Design Factory on several courses of Aalto University. The PDP course only has completed 270 projects in the past 23 years already. And when I was rethinking on those projects, I couldn't recall any single one of them where the sustainable development has no role at all. It's always part of product development process. The driving forces for sustainable development are, of course, legislation that you must follow, the competitors' actions, and all companies, they are all the time also searching for better ways to prepare for the future. But we must remember that product development is always damn difficult. We are always having the lack of resources, lack of time, lack of money, lack of human resources. So I don't believe in so-called planned obsolescence, that product developers are developing products that are not as good as they could be, because it's just so damn difficult to make products with an affordable price and acceptable quality. As said, product development is one of the most difficult jobs in the world, and it's not very well paid either. So why does anyone want to become a professional product developer? Well, it's one of the professions where you really can see the results of your work and make an impact.
Hi, Kalevi. Really nice to have you in our conversation today. You have been managing Aalto Design Factory in Helsinki for quite some years, and you have seen many new designers coming out of that building, being equipped for life with different knowledge. What do you think that young product and service designers take with them from Design Factory?
Hi, Saša. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm aware that there are plenty of excellent design schools in the world. And one of them we have here at Aalto University. But what comes to Design Factory, I can see one major difference between the Design Factory and the design schools. The students, when they come to Design Factory, they study together with others. Students from engineering, business, etc. And they get familiar how the terms they are using may mean a bit different things. They learn the mentality, the thinking of other experts. They get familiar with the others' skills and tools and processes, which means that during that time they are often developing some understanding, which means also respect for the others, that forms a very good base for efficient and good productivity, kind of trust and self-efficacy for the future. And I would also say that it's not just about what the designers take with them when they leave Design Factory. In my opinion, it goes the other way around. The design students, they are also making their own influence on the others for better cooperation in the future.
Do you think that designers and engineers, so different backgrounds, they work hand in hand with each other in Design Factory in several different projects and several different courses, right? So which ones do you think are the ones that support what you're saying the most? Building the respect among each other and common understanding of the processes.
Well, starting from the bachelor level, we have the Aalto minor program that has several such courses. We have the cooperation with Stanford University and many other international universities for a long-term interdisciplinary course. And of course, myself, I'm responsible from one of the biggest courses, if you just measure the head count. It's called the Product Development Project, where students from all fields you can imagine may come together and learn together.
We have been having several conversations in the past where we were discussing the complexity of the product development process, which is, of course, part of your product course. How hard is it to think sustainability through a product design process that is very complex? Why is sustainability such a dilemma in the product development field, if I can just cut and ask you this question about sustainability because you've seen so many products and projects being developed through this course.
Well, first, product development, in my opinion, is an art that is very hard to measure. And for instance, you just don't know what the others or competitors are doing right now. You just can't know it. You must believe very strongly on your ideas, on yourself, on your team. But on the other hand, believing too much will just take you to a disaster. So it's just searching for the right balance. How much self-confidence you must have, but then you must also very carefully listen to the end users or other signals that may come to your radar. What comes to sustainability, it has so many phases that it's about the use of natural resources in a clever way, but it also means the business perspective, sustainable business and growth. There are laws, standards, regulations that you must follow. As mentioned, the competitors' actions, you must pay attention on those if you want to be proactive and see the weak signals about trends and behavior. So it's a very complex context where you are operating, and then if you think about R&D as a function in an organization, it always has very limited resources. I mean, there are limitations of time or the tempo or speed of the development activities. It's a question about the features, how much is enough or how much we can afford. The development cost, the manufacturing cost naturally, but you may even add the promotion costs, how we will be able to make our good product or service available for people, and the logistics, of course. And because by nature, R&D is always an investment, means it's a risk. It's an easy activity for potential savings when savings are necessary. So I would just add that the dilemma is that there are major pros and cons always on the table of a designer. I mean, the positive things, you may achieve some advantage in competition proactively, and you may have certain benefits for the brand of your company, your product or service. On the other hand, there are always the minus side that it may take some more time, it may increase the cost a bit, and still you have no guarantee that it will be good business, that it will kind of sell. These are the general dilemmas in R&D. But if we speak more about the designer's dilemma particularly, well, yes, this is designers and product developers' dilemma, because as we know, by rule of thumb, that 80% of all the cost, they are fixed on the design phase in a way that it will be very hard to reduce any of those manufacturing costs later. Of course, you can always add cost. That's not the problem. These decisions are always made in a pressure situation. There is always the need to develop too much in too short time with too little resources. Of course, I'm not saying that it's not others' dilemma as well. but the perspective is maybe a bit different. For instance, the board of the company, they have their duty given by law that they must make good decisions, not losing the stakeholders' money. The designers, they have a given budget. They see a lot of opportunities. They see a lot of obstacles. And whatever happens, usually they always must navigate with limited visibility. So, I mean, it's not only facts, it's very much often based on best guesses.
So if I return the dilemma back to sustainability, many times perhaps we don't have the chance or the choice to make decisions when it comes to certain decision-making in the development process. Or do we have always the choice where we can somehow try and create solutions that are more sustainability-driven? What would you think? What would you say about that?
What we always have, it's a lot of restrictions and rules and standards and this or that we kind of should fulfill. And those are, most times, they are a bit conflicting. And then there is a lot of uncertainty that we just don't know certain facts. And we must make assumptions or extrapolations or simulations or whatnot, and then just trust that, okay, this is good enough so that we can proceed.
At your course, you've seen hundreds of projects where once you mentioned that all the projects have sustainability in mind when they are designed. And you were mentioning that there's different standardizations, ISO standards, different things you can follow. We also had a little fun moment when you asked me about the paper cup and the questions that you have to ask and how complex these questions are for each project, each product that you always develop. It's more complex than it seems. My questions lie in the sustainability, in the approach, whether do we have the choice in the sense of trying to find a way to bring more sustainability in if the stakeholders are open to this new, market opportunities, or is it more like a business decision where stakeholders or owners of the company would decide how much risk they want to take? How much space do designers have in this development, this sustainability created process?
Yeah. This question is really impossible to answer. The variation of design space or freedom depends so much about in which company we are, which particular product or service we are talking about. But I believe that there is always some room for decision making, and you can always find some options that are very close to each other. And then it's also the sustainability question that how do we think it will have an influence in the future? So I know that many times the designers, they may feel that they have their hands not so free as they wish, and there are other arguments that are much stronger. But I would say there's always some room for discussion, and it also has a connection to the strategy of the organization and the kind of long-term goals, etc. And things don't happen overnight, so you must also be patient and and you can make your own influence day after day.
You were also mentioning in your crash course, as you're mentioning now, that there's certain standards. You can always find that balance somewhere on the way. If I can ask you, we have like ISO standards for different basic sustainability categories. Is there anything missing? Is there anything in standardizations and approach that you would change if you could, or add?
The ISO 9000 set of standards is a starting point for most companies. And the bigger corporate partners, they just won't cooperate with your organization if you can't show that you also have your own ISO 9000 accreditation. It doesn't guarantee any quality. It doesn't guarantee nothing. It only guarantees that you have described the processes, how things should go. But what is the reality? That's a different story. And it's a bit the same with the ISO 14000, the green standard, where the environmental awareness and required documentation assist the company in confirming the environmental regulations. So it's the starting point, and raising the awareness, and you have things documented. What I feel is that sometimes it may remain a bit unclear what is the scale of influence potentially at design. I mean, of course, it's more meaningful to focus on those things that you may change and you may have strong impact than working on things that are extremely laborious and have very low impact. If I look for good examples, this is not the business example exactly, but there are quite recent news from France that it will become forbidden to dump the unsold fashion items. This rule is coming from the authorities, but in this case, the authorities have shown some creativity and courage. If I look for another example from business, I would point out the Finnish oil company, Neste Oil, that offers the consumers a diesel gas that is made from renewable resources, and it is a bit more expensive than the oil-based product, but at least there is such an option available. If you really think you would act more environmentally friendly, then you have an option that you can choose.
Do you think that in the future there will be more options like this where people are more like conscious buyers? They're becoming more like conscious in the decisions that they're making. To believe that there will be more bottom up, basically like the pushing of these margins of sustainability also in product development coming from down up, from actually the clients, the users of the products who wish to have more of these options on the market?
I believe so, and I also believe that there is no other way. So we already can see some such early signals or signs, and that is where the development is taking direction.
Is there anything like you could point out or give us as an example from the changes that you're seeing in Finland or within PDP course or within the clients that are coming along? Is there like this change that you can see?
Well, I can see it on many levels. I can see it in the communication from companies where they very strongly underline their environmental friendly processes and services. It's a big thing and very visible thing on their public relations, etc. But I can also see it on the very grassroots level that touches, the normal citizens. For instance, the waste management system, how much it has been developing during the past decades. It's almost unbelievable how much more advanced it is today than it was 20, 30 years ago.
From the students' perspective, younger generations are coming, for education. I'm sure that they are more aware of this sustainability dynamics in their work also. Do they also push some boundaries when they want to have more of this kind of content, when they want to learn more? Can you see that there's any difference in the generations coming?
Yeah, for sure. That's a fact, and it also shows some evidence that the elementary school system in our country has provoked some thoughts among the youngsters. And yesterday I was hosting some members of Finnish Parliament, and it was my pleasure to see that there was one of my previous students who was the parliament member representing the Green Party of Finland. And in addition to this political aspect, he's very good expert of technology and business. So I think when we have stronger presence of such people also in the parliament, the political decision making and processes will have a boost for better direction.
What I really like about Aalto is that I think what perhaps brings more of this kind of conversation into the general field of design is what you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, that is that multidisciplinary approach is the focus of Aalto, where different fields work together. And do you think that this mix of different fields is bringing even more conversation into a focus of sustainability? Because I am sure that if you have multi-dynamical teams, that there are many questions that are never asked otherwise are coming into the question.
Absolutely. I believe this kind of richness is very fruitful. And as a teacher and professor, I also have the role to be open and speak and provoke thoughts about things where there is not black and white, false or truth. For instance, you may have heard about planned obsolescence, an evil conspiracy of companies and designers who design products that are not as good as they could be. Is this true or is it false? As a teacher and professor, I have the freedom to openly speak and provoke thoughts. For instance, if you have heard about planned obsolescence, the so-called evil conspiracy of companies and designers, is this true or not? Are the products designed more badly as they could? This is a very good topic for discussion, and of course, the answer is yes and no. But that's the nature of product development. There are many things that you should not assume too much at first look. There is always some room for deep discussion and having all the point of views from various parties.
You hear a lot of these kind of discussions do come, and they are very real when it comes to questioning whether products are deliberately breaking down in a certain period of time so that, you know, companies can, you know, generate some profit and so on and so on. But to me, more important question is, if you were ever in this kind of position, were you? What would you do?
You mean, so having the pressure that the design is too good, so well, I haven't never been in such a situation. I see it rather unrealistic, but if it never happens, I would make the same decision as some of my friends have done. I would quit immediately.
How do you find yourself, overcoming all these limitations when you're working with different stakeholders and different owners of businesses? When, for instance, you see where you can go to improve something much more than what they expected you to do, but it could be something that is a bit out of their range of understanding. How would you convince them into taking a different turn? For instance, you have found, let's say, like a good solution for replacing a material for more sustainable material or something, but the beginning costs are much bigger. Would you try and convince the stakeholders to go your way and try and calculate the possibility to do the different solution, or how would you work with them around this kind of challenge?
There is a risk that what I say is not a good fit for any other circumstances, because Finland as a country is very, very special. It's rather big country if you only take the land, but if you take the number of people, that is very, very small number. So which means that the domestic market is really small. The industry and the universities, everybody knows each other. So the relations are very straightforward, and it's no wonder if a university student picks up the phone and has a call to a CEO of the major company. So it's that straightforward. The power distance is very, very low. Which means that when there are new ideas or problems coming from industry to academia or vice versa, it's quite straightforward to start conversations and discussions, and it's very informal and close relations. So in that sense, I don't see any major difficulties. It might be a completely different story if we speak about the global market or approaching another company in another culture and country, and it's not that easy, not easy at all. But in Finland, things, they just work like that. And then the other question is that how good is your idea, or what other bottlenecks or challenges there are in front of you. But I don't see this kind of to finding someone who will listen to you from the industry is rather easy.
In Finland?
Yes.
Maybe everyone should go to Finland then, especially in these uncertain times of Corona. Kalevi, when you mentioned that Design Factory is having a focus to educate the best product designers in the world. What do you think sets them, away from others? Like, besides everything you mentioned before, like multidisciplinary approach and learning from each other a lot. Is there anything else that sets their skills away from others? Like, is there any specific methodological approach that is so unique to the environment that you created?
I think most of the things were mentioned already, but the environment that we have here that is designed to support the learning processes, hopefully also support the other aspects of this development. I mean, not only the core skills, but also the people skills, I would say, the communication and interaction skills, leadership skills, and capacity to communicate your thoughts to others, whoever they are. Are they your own teammates? Are they the bosses in your organization, or are there some external parties or funding agency or whatnot? So these kind of people skills have a big role, and what I have heard from some of our alumni was that at least I have learned one thing: with what kind of people I want to work in the future, and with what kind of people not.
I will ask you one more question, Kalevi, before we finish, and that question is related to your, I would say, big knowledge in education, because you're running Design Factory for a long time, and you have a lot of insights into what is happening in the frontiers of this, like say, upcoming new trends in education and so on. Is there anything that you could point out for the future of education in product design? Is there anything big, anything new that is coming out as a new thing? Like years ago, participation was so good, so big, years back, when sustainability was a new buzzword, was something big. Is there anything new now that you think it's important to look into that?
Well, I would come back to your original question: if every good design is sustainable, and I agree strongly with that, there will be no option. Of course, we must define what we mean by good design. For instance, for me personally, it's hard to see how those gigantic SUVs, the cars that are very trendy these days, or some other items like a C-scooter, how they could be very sustainable no matter how they are designed or manufactured, because they are kind of lacking the fundamental reason for existence. In general, I would say that the education system and universities, they are not forming the bottleneck in this development. I believe that the business behavior or the market behavior or the political pressure, they are all developing much slower. And I also believe that it's very good that the universities and the young designers in general, they actively participate in the public discussion. And as we discussed earlier, I believe there is hope, because I can see the change already here at some point. But of course, we still have a lot to do.
Maybe we have to downsize ourselves first a bit. So thank you, Kalevi, so much for this beautiful short conversation. And hopefully we will talk again soon in the future and share more insights into product design.
Thank you very much for this very thought-provoking questions.
Thank you, Kalevi, and we speak soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.